And an important piece, Beth, that's extremely important that I want to mention is when I mention all these new initiatives, it doesn't mean that this is going to cost more money to a taxpayer, that is going to cost more money to our county. There's many grants, whether federal, state, local, that we can take advantage of.
Welcome to episode 24 of Building Connections Doral Talks. I'm your host, Betty Gonzalez, bringing you the voices that shape our community right here in Doral, Florida. Today, we have a very special guest, Jose Aragu, a seasoned professional in law enforcement and a dedicated running for Miami Sheriff. With over 2 decades of experience and a community-first approach, Jose aims to enhance public safety and strengthen community policing and introduce innovative strategies for a safer Miami-Dade County. Stay tuned as we dive into his vision for the future of law enforcement in our community. Good morning, Jose Aragu. Thank you for coming this morning. I know you're a very busy man.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Of course. Before we dive into all of the questions that I have prepared, because I was doing my homework, and you have what got you into law enforcement, and especially right here in Miami-Dade.
So I'm originally from Cuba. I was born, my family and I came to the United States in 1992. I've always had a passion for public service. I've dedicated my life to serving our community. And since an early age, I was an explorer in the fire department, in the police department as a young adult. And for me, being in public service.
So this is something that you always wanted to do since you were little. You just wanted to be in the public, lights, helping other people.
Yes, that is correct. It's been about helping the community, a community-first approach, which is what my campaign is all about, and accountable for the men and women of the police department.
Right. Did any of your parents ever were involved in community service, or is it just something that Jose Aragu himself wanted to do?
So my parents, we are a family of, I'm a first generation. I come from a family of musicians. So my father, grandfather, great grandfather, they were all musicians. And I'm the first law enforcement officer of the family.
This is very interesting because I identify with this because unlike you, I am from the Dominican Republic, and I came in 1993. Actually, and no of my family have ever been into the military. I've been the only one. So I was in the military and I served in the army for 22 years. So this is very interesting. You, on your other hand, served, and no one else, did this before. So this is pretty impressive. Okay, but I'm going to go right in because I know you said that you have a lot of work. And let me ask you this. So what inspired you? You already told me what inspired you to enter into law enforcement, but what inspired you to run for Miami Sheriff? Because you're running for Miami Sheriff, right? So
yes, correct.
Tell me a little detail. So what do you have to run for sheriff, and why you decided to run for sheriff?
So I decided to run for sheriff because I wanted to see my community move forward in the direction where we have law and order. We have new innovative ways of attacking or handling our community problems, whether it's crime, community policing, addressing community concerns. So I wanted to bring a new innovative strategy to the way that we police our community in the 21st century, which is extremely important. Policing has changed. The way we handle situations is not the way that it was done years back. And I want to bring that vision and that new mission to the law enforcement agency.
Okay. So based on what you just said that you want to do community policing. So can you share an impactful example of community policing from your career, or something that you wish was different moving forward?
Sure. So I'll share a live example. Currently, I am the major of the Midwest District in the Miami-Dade Police Department, which is one of the most populated districts. And when I was assigned here as the major, coming from Port of Miami, which was, I learned a lot about public-private partnerships, right? And how we together can achieve the world, as long as there's a connection between the community, or in the port's case, a company and the county, in this case, the community and the police department. And I say that because public-private partnerships is the way that we are moving forward, and it's the future of our community. So being assigned here in the Midwest District, I quickly learned that the police wanted to have a role with the community, but so did the community. The community wanted to be a part of their police department. So I went ahead and we created an Instagram, right, where the community can see pretty much real time what their police department is doing about their concerns. And they're seeing that it's being handled in a timely fashion, it's being handled effectively, and that created trust between the community and the police department. In addition to that, we have a component of community policing where officers are assigned to specific areas and neighborhoods. It's a great model because it creates that bond and that trust that is needed between that resident and that community officer, where now they trust in their officer to address their concerns, if that makes any sense.
Oh no, it makes, because it brings a smile to my face, because as you were saying this, and my husband always said this to me. Every time we watch the news, about some sort of law enforcement, whether it's right here or in another state, my husband always said, it's the problem that we have. I don't know if this is part of your idea, but if you don't have this idea, I want to introduce it to you so that you can implement it when you get elected, okay? So not if, but when, right? Let's put it right there into the.
Thank you.
So my husband always says the police, it's to serve the community, and they need to be part of the community. And he believes that the police need to come off the cars and run and walk their perimeters where they can say hello to the community, and they don't feel afraid. They feel that they're part of the solution, not that they're bringing like scared. Like when people see a police, they get scared. So what my husband says, what people need to feel is protected, and they feel the support, and they know, like, and trust the police person, so they will call them and trust that they will do the right thing. And they can do this by not driving in the car and being behind the wheel, but by getting out and walking once in a while, not every day, at least once a week, and then therefore creating that sense of you belong here and we trust you. So I don't know if you have this, but this is what my husband always said. So that's why I was like, wow, this is the first time I've heard this, and my husband, besides my husband.
So we do have a similar strategy,
okay,
where we do neighborhood knock and talks on a monthly basis. So within the district, of course, the district is very large, but within the district, we select randomly areas based on crime trends, based on just issues that are happening in different areas of the community. And we gather our entire neighborhood resource unit, and we knock on doors, we talk to the residents, and we ask, which has led to a reduction in crime. Currently, my district leads Miami-Dade County in crime reduction by negative 34%. Which is astonishing. It's working, right? The community police, in conjunction with proactive enforcement and the officers handling the crimes, not only in a reactive manner, but in a proactive manner, right? How do we address the situations in the community has been exceptionally welcomed by our community, and it's proven with our numbers.
This is good, because I didn't know, especially Miami-Dade County, we're the biggest, county in South Florida. So I want to, in terms of the safety and the community, I want to ask you a question about the school safety. So what new strategies do you propose for enhance the school security as well? Because as you know, schools have become more and more targeted areas for whatever reason. So do you have any plan for to secure that?
So that is one of my major talking points, and it has been since I announced my campaign. I think that families, parents, grandparents, when they're in school, right? It's a learning environment, and we need to be at ease, right? As a parent myself, we all worry when our kids go to school. Are they safe? So, I want to create a collaboration between the school board, Miami-Dade Schools Police, and the local municipalities. We can't do this alone. The Miami-Dade Police Department has a little under 3,000 officers, and there's a lot of schools in our community. But the bottom line is that every school should be staffed by a police officer. It is imperative that we accomplish this. And the question of budget comes up, right? Well, where are we going to find the budget? Well, we're going to find it. Our children's lives are very important to me. We saw the unfortunate situation that happened in Broward County, and we can't allow that to happen here. We need to be prepared. We need to be ready. Some schools require 2 police officers, not 1, because it's an officer safety issue. Depending in some areas of this community where kids are going to school with guns. We've also seen a large increase in gun violence in our younger adults, which that's a separate topic that needs to be addressed. But if these young adults are engaged in violent crime involving weapons, the odds of them taking those weapons to school are very high. Now, that introduces an entire different dynamic into now you have a young child with a weapon in a school. God forbid there's an active shooter. Sometimes we look at an outside threat and we don't take the time. In short, we will find a budget. We will have partnerships. There's many municipalities in our community. There's the school police department that does a phenomenal job, but they need help. They need help, and we need to step up as a sheriff's department and make sure that our children are safe.
So the question that I have is, I hear you said they need budget, but what would this budget help do? Like, would it help bring more people like police in the school, or would it help bring technology? Like, what does this budget will be serving for our community?
Well, there's a combination, right? Obviously, where we can adopt technology, which technology is our friend, and we constantly have to evolve. But bottom line is having an armed police officer with the training required to respond to any active assailant at a school and to deal with any situation that will present itself. There's a cost to that, but there's no cost. Lobby the state, engage in our community, and find funding where there is no funding, or augment funding in order to make sure that we are providing the best security to our schools, our teachers.
No, thank you so much for clarifying that, because sometimes, people hear money, but they want to know, so where is this money going to go? Is it about more police enforcement, more technology? Is it both? Money is a thing. And together with the safety and crime prevention that we're talking about, community policing, we talk about school safety. So I know that you have a crime commission board. So how would the crime commission board uniquely tackle crime prevention? Because I don't think the public know that we even have a board like this.
Well, we currently don't have a board.
Okay.
That is a board that in most circumstances, whenever there's any type of situation, it always ends up in the hands of our local police department, right? Well, we have issue A, right? We'll call the police. Well, we have issue B. We'll call the police. We are heavily dependent in the community, but we don't necessarily rely on anyone else. So my proposal is we need to engage our community to be a part of the solution, but we also need to engage our local universities and colleges, right? We have PhDs in this community. We have masters in this community that study psychology, economy, right? Sociology. And are we bringing them to the table and having discussions? And are we addressing crime before it becomes a crime? Maybe that doesn't make much sense, but if we invest in the forefront of crime fighting and we are proactive in addressing the crime communities, then we don't have to be reactive in addressing the crime concern later. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And I've never heard it presented in this way, and it makes sense. The only question I have, Mr. Aragu, how would you propose to implement this, kind of like a community service kind of thing, or how would you, because I mean, that would be great, because when you tackle socioeconomic, psychology, all of this from the people that are actually studying this, because although our law enforcement are a well-educated force, they don't necessarily go to school for the careers that you just mentioned.
Correct. So my vision of this is have this board to advise the sheriff. This is not having the board out engaging the community. Of course, that can be phase 2 of the board, but phase 1 would be having come together with the sheriff's office to come up with real solutions to proactively addressing crime concerns before they become a plague or us having to do reactive. We can accomplish great things. This is not getting individuals to go out to the community unarmed, right? So there's been times where there's been proposals that we're going to have social workers going and engaging the community without law enforcement presence, and now that becomes an issue, a safety issue for these individuals, right? This is about a collaboration and coming up with a system and method. So that I would love to see take off, right? Because I think it's all about us helping each other and listening to those experts in each individual area, how we can better the police department and how we can strategically work on proactive approaches to help our community before it becomes criminal.
No, I really love it. I mean, proactive is better in any case than reactive. So this is really good. I really, really do hope to see a commission board, a crime community board. That would be great. That would be really good. And it makes total sense. You say it doesn't make sense. It makes sense to me, and I hope it makes sense to the people listening to this message. Now, 3,000 law enforcement in Miami-Dade, is that correct?
So the Miami-Dade Police Department is comprised of a little less than 3,000 officers. We are a force of about counting sworn and non-sworn civilian staff with a budget of $1 billion.
So what specific initiative will you introduce to improve officers' wellness, if there's any improvement that need to be made, or what would incentivize? Do you believe that you have your staff enough for how big the county is, or do you believe you need more officers?
So I believe that to answer the first part of your question is I believe we have a phenomenal and robust, but that always comes with a stigma, right? You coming from the military, I'm sure you can appreciate that many times the officers need the help, but they feel that going to our internal working staff might be detrimental to them, to their career, and what is the department going to think, which is quite frankly the wrong mentality to have. But nevertheless, we have to offer more services to our officers, especially in this new day and age where we've seen that police services have changed, right? The sentiment for police in Miami-Dade County is wonderful. Our community loves us, but unfortunately, I can't say that about the nation. And the officers are watching, right? They are. So I propose having outside resources for our officers where there's no stigma attached to, well, I'm going to an internal counselor or psychologist, and how am I going to be perceived, etc. And we've also seen that our peer groups work wonderfully. Sometimes an officer can relate more to another officer that's going through the same situation than they are, and they feel more comfortable and at ease sharing those concerns with a peer that they trust versus someone in the department or in management. And bottom line is their mental wellness is the most important thing, right? We've seen in recent events, but nevertheless, we need to provide better services for our officers, and we need to support them, which is extremely important.
No, this is a really good idea, and hopefully the initiative takes place because, like you said, I do identify with that, especially with higher rank. They don't want to be perceived as they don't have it together, but the brain, our head is a muscle, and it is part of the wellness of our whole body. Like if you are sick from your heart, you go to a heart doctor. If your foot hurts, you go to a foot doctor. But if your head is having problems or you have an imbalance of your hormones, where would you go? You have to go to the right people that take care of that specific issue. That doesn't mean that you're broken. That just means that you need help. And once you seek help, you can get better. So this is a very good initiative. I hope it really works out for the vision that you have, because a good law enforcement that have a good that feel well taken care of, then the better that they're taken care of, the better that we're taken care of.
That is correct.
That's how I see it. So thank you so much for clarifying that. And now to pivot a little bit, something that is very dear heart to us and here in South Florida is the traffic. So let me ask you this about traffic. How do you plan to address Miami-Dade traffic issues through collaboration, and do you plan to use technology? And if you do, how would you implement this?
So this is a tough topic, but there are fixes and there are solutions. We need to adapt better and newer technology, right? I mentioned in the beginning of our conversation that we need to evolve as a police department. We also with our traffic engineers, because of course everybody's busy, right? The police department is busy addressing police concerns. The traffic engineers that work for Miami-Dade County are worried about roadways, light system, etc. But we need to work together. We need to address those areas in Miami-Dade County that are a major traffic concern for us. And we need to really dive deeply into how we can address this. Is it new traffic light systems? Our systems are very antiquated. Some of these lights now work in unison with traffic patterns. They can identify how much traffic is in a certain area to continue to have that progress in our traffic. How do we address these concerns and unite with our traffic engineers in Miami-Dade County to find the solutions? In many ways, we work as a police department, they work as an engineering department, but are we together in the same room? Because our officers are the ones that are addressing these traffic crashes, these traffic concerns. Are we sitting down and are we diving deep into the areas of concern of our county? And are we being part of the solution? Are we adopting new technologies that can help the sheriff's department address crime, right? We all know about, I'm not a fan of the red light camera system, to be very frank with you. I think it's a money generator for a lot of cities, but at the end of the day, there's no educational piece to it other than you're gonna get a ticket by mail, you're gonna pay for it, and then you're probably gonna get another one and another one and another one, right? It makes no sense to me. But why don't we adopt that same technology to put cameras in major intersections that can help us address crime trends in those areas that we have crime? An example, if we know that some areas of our community are riddled by crime more so than other areas, then why not install these new cameras with new technology in these areas that can help us identify these vehicles that are involved in robberies and homicides and violent crime? This is not about, well, someone ran a red light. I understand that traffic concerns are important, but how are we using our technology so that we can get our violent offenders out of the street, one, and two, how are we being more efficient working with our traffic engineers in our community to be able to make sure that our traffic is flowing as efficiently as possible to provide a better commute to our residents, right? It's simple math. 1 + 1 is 2, but we all need to get in the same room together and have tough conversations. And of course, be in a government where things get done. Promises are not empty, where we deliver on what we're saying, where a lot of times, and I refer to myself as not a politician because I'm a career law enforcement officer, we make empty promises. We need to follow through, and that goes hand in hand with my communication piece, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But bottom line is real solutions to our real problems.
No, this is really interesting. I really appreciate you saying this, because once the person ran the red light, it's already ran. There's no prevention. So I understand what you're saying, and then use that technology to then bring it to the communities that really, really need it for real crimes, to prevent those crimes to happen. So that's really, you come up with these ideas. I don't know if they're new ideas or these ideas have always been there, but they're new to me, and they really do make sense. And I appreciate a person with your caliber or in a position to actually make a change, having these aspirations, because sometimes you see these aspirations, but they're not from the actual leadership. They're aspirations for the employees that see this every day and wish to see this happen, but they themselves are not the people that can actually make it happen. So coming from a person that aspired to become the sheriff is really refreshing to hear this innovative and honestly 21st century approach to problems that we have now that we had before, but we did not have the technology per se to use to combat crime. So this is really refreshing to hear from you. And like I said, we know each other from a common friend, and obviously I did my research to be able to do this interview with you. But a lot of times it falls flat because you don't put the face and you don't get to hear the genuine concerns, because every question that I have, you didn't give me this. I generated these questions based on what I thought was important for our audience to hear. And you really have genuine examples of.
It doesn't mean that this is going to cost more money to a taxpayer, that is going to cost more money to our county. There's many grants, whether federal, state, local, that we can take advantage of as it relates to urban cities. There are so many opportunities for us to be able to tap into all this money and more efficient community, and the funding is out there. And one of my initiatives, right, in the status quo is creating a grants department in the police department. Not necessarily 1 or 2 individuals that are working our grants, but having an entire team of a supervisor, 5, 6 individuals that work on grant funding that is essentially free money that we should be tapping into as a community to take advantage and provide these better services to our community that are much needed. So it does not necessarily mean that it's going to cost more money to the taxpayer.
And that is a perfect segue. You mentioned in this taxpayers, grants, and potential ways to fund these new initiatives. So beyond a semi-annual briefs that we already expect from our sheriff departments, how will you ensure transparency and accountability?
And show the community that the things that they are in need of are being provided and we're delivering. So one of my biggest projects is I want to create a podcast where the sheriff will have a weekly podcast with an open line to the community, and take a few hours out of my day once a week and listen to the community's needs, listen to what we should be doing different, what we should be doing better, and having a dialogue. And listening is the key to any organization's success. In this case, it's the sheriff and the community. I also want to invite guests from the community. I want to invite district majors to talk about different areas. Just because we are the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Department doesn't mean that we police every area the same way. Different neighborhoods have different needs, different crime trends, different things that are occurring within that jurisdictional area of the district. And I want the community to be informed in an open forum where it's just a casual conversation and there's no hidden agendas. It's just the sheriff, his community, and what are we doing to make Miami-Dade County the safest place in the country, right? As simple as that. And I think if we have that dialogue, we can accomplish so many great things. Within that podcast, I'm also going to talk about budget. How are we spending the taxpayers' dollars, and how are we addressing the concerns in the areas that need to be addressed, and how are we doing as a law enforcement agency? Are we doing well? Are we doing bad, right? Sometimes we do phenomenal at saying all the great things we're doing right, but we want to keep very close to our chest the things that we're not doing not so right. And you know what? If it's an open communication, it's going to be very positive for our community, very positive for the Sheriff's Department. And why not be transparent?
No, this is a tremendous idea. I mean, I'm doing a podcast right now with you because I want voices that otherwise wouldn't be heard to be heard, because this is our community. We have to speak to our community through a medium that everybody can reach, that they don't necessarily have to pay. You don't have to go to the TV. It doesn't have to do that. We just get together and we talk about our ideas, how we can move forward, and how our community can come together to make these initiatives actually happen and come to life. So you coming on this morning, even though I know you're very busy, this is a very good first step on what people should expect from the future sheriff of Miami-Dade. So this is great. And then, like you mentioned, if people speak really fast about what they're doing well, but not so loud about what they're not doing well. But any other big companies always have service of how they can improve. The only way to improve is by hearing from other people what we're not doing so well, so that we can improve, or we acknowledging ourselves, maybe we could do better. So what are your suggestions? And then listening from the community, or like you said, if it makes sense, what could we implement if it is, actually for the betterness of the department and the community. So I know you're pretty busy. I have only a few more questions. Proactive policing, as you said, there's a status quo policy.
Betty, this is one of those tough questions that there are so many things that we do the way we do it, because when you ask the question, right?
It's always been done that way.
It's always been done that way, right? Well, and this goes back to the evolution of where I'll give you an example. The average call for service in the county on a non-emergency call, you have a citizen waiting 20 minutes for that officer to arrive in a non-emergency call. And in an emergency call, which is what we call, a 2 or a 3 lights and sirens, the average response time is anywhere between 6 to 7 minutes. We need to improve that. Now, how do we improve that? Well, we reallocate and realign services within the department, and we put our resources where they're needed the most. So, an example, a district station has 230 officers that are budgeted for that district. Well, if you look at cost for service and you look at crime and you look at other circumstances that are happening within that district, maybe you might have to realign personnel from other districts and bring them to that specific district so that you can reduce waiting time on calls, so that you can reduce crime, so that you can reduce what's affecting that community. And then that might not be the problem 6 months down the line. And then at that point, you might have to reallocate resources. And in essence, that creates some instability within the department, right? Because unfortunately, no one likes change. We're in a world, and everyone says police officers don't like change. Well, I challenge that. I think humans don't like change, right? But the bottom line is we need to adapt to the needs of the community we're serving. And if we know certain areas are having an issue with gun violence, well, how are we addressing that gun violence? How are we, as a police department, allocating the resources to address that concern? Well, that community might have that issue, but then here you have another community that's having an issue where they're waiting 25 minutes for an officer to respond to an audible alarm. Well, in 25 minutes, the entire house has been emptied out, right? So how do you allocate? And the evolution of the department is the way to the future, right? I think technology evolves, cell phones, technology. We saw during COVID, right? We went into a Zoom world that no one had explored before. Well, as a law enforcement agency, we need to evolve as well.
No, this is good. I love it. It makes total sense, everything you're saying. I had other questions that you have answered along the way, so I'm just going to go to one that is really important that I believe to need to be answered. How would you plan to strengthen victim and witness support programs? And I think after that, we have a few more questions, and then you just tell me what you want the public to know. So right now, it's just how do you plan to strengthen victim and witness support programs?
So in some areas in our community, I'll use an example, gun violence. Mm-hmm. In many cases, the community knows who the offender is, but they don't come forward because they then become victims themselves of the gun violence. So how do we come up with a victim witness support program in conjunction with our state attorney's office? And Betty, I want to say to you that none of this that I'm discussing can be done only with the sheriff's office. This is based on partnerships, on friendships, on understandings, and having a common mission of making our community a better place, which I think that everyone wants to go in that direction, right? Working with politicians, commissioners, mayors, whether it's local, municipal, county, even working with our governor's office in Tallahassee. But nevertheless, going back to the question, if we don't have a robust victim witness program, then how do we preach if you see something, say something? People are afraid to say something. Well, if I say something, how is that going to affect me, my family, my children? Because I still have to live in this community. So how do we look past that and have services where we can truly do relocations, truly help these witnesses of crimes, where they can come forward without any repercussion as to the information they are giving the police department? And then we can truly work on a model that if you see something, you will say something. Now that goes hand in hand with the community policing approach, having that officer that you know in your neighborhood, that there's a certain level of trust. If there's no trust, we lose the entire concept. And that is along the way what I'm trying to create. If you see between a podcast, open lines of communication with a sheriff, community policing officers, if you see something, say something, but having a system in place where you're really providing the resources needed for these victims and witnesses, now we can accomplish great things. So a lot of this all plays together. from a crime strategy with the Crime Commission Board, right? Most of our issues are social economic issues that are happening in our community. How are we involving our social workers? Are we having these round tables and having tough discussions? Those are the things that are gonna make a difference. And that is what I would like to bring to our community.
Well, these are big aspirations, and they all sound really promising, Jose. I really, really like what I hear. And then we do have an insurance fraud task force, or do we have one? And if we do, can you outline the priorities of the proposed insurance fraud task force?
So we currently don't have one. And this is of major concern to me and to all of us that are paying insurance in Miami-Dade County. Recently, I had the pleasure of speaking to the CEO of Citizens, and I asked a question. I said, why are our insurance premiums as expensive? And we have to put a stop to that. We're also seeing a major issue with homeowner association fraud. And the concern with that is, in most cases, it's handled as a civil matter between the landlord and the association. Well, I beg to differ. There's fraud along the way. How are we addressing that? And how are we presenting those cases to our state attorney's office so that our citizens don't become victim of these homeowners associations, right? It's horrible what's happening to our community. But we don't solve the issue by saying, well, there's a contract, they raise your homeowners association, is a civil matter, go to civil court. If we dig deeper into the root cause of a lot of these cases, they are criminal in nature. Well, we need a task force specifically to address homeowner association fraud, vehicle claims as it relates to staged accidents, and fraudulent claims to insurances, to homeowners insurances. And hopefully, if we create that collaboration between the task force, the state attorney's office, the sheriff's office, which will ultimately house the task force, then maybe we can start doing enough of an impact where we can hopefully pay a lot less in our insurance premiums, which quite frankly have become unaffordable.
No, this is really dear heart, close to my heart. My main job is a real estate agent, and it seems alarming to me that some of these associations, especially for condominiums, they charge $450, $490, $500, $580, up to $940. And when a client would like to place an offer, the message to the agents like myself is HOA does not have enough funding, so you have to pay 25% down to buy this condo. And I was like, so what are you paying into if they don't have the funds to take care of the maintenance of the actual condo? So this had to be fraudulent, because then where's this money going to? It can't be all going to cutting the grass when they're paying that much high premiums. So this is, oh my goodness, the housing market is really high here in South Florida after 2020, it went higher. So on top of that, HOA in premiums, car insurance higher, like the military that come here to be stationed in South Florida, a lot of them cannot afford on their military paychecks to live here. And they are like, they cannot believe it. They cannot believe it, because everything is just like the insurance jumped 2-3 times what they used to have anywhere else. So this is really good that you are putting the HOA association as crimes. They're just not like, when these people are doing this, they're robbing people out of, first, be able to purchase a property, and second, to be able to keep it. Because if it continues to go higher, they're not able to afford these properties and they have to leave their houses.
Betty, to me, the answer of, and what are we doing? What are we doing to put a stop to this? so that ultimately they pay less. The cost of living is incredible in this city already, as we see. We are becoming truly a world-class city. I mean, in my eyes, we always were, but we're seeing the influx of citizens moving from New York, Chicago, California, and they're coming here simply because they want law and order. They're leaving these cities because they feel that their safety is at risk. And if we don't come out and vote for the right sheriff, and that's up to the voter to decide, right? I think this election for the sheriff is going to be, quite frankly, more impactful to our community than even the mayoral race, because nothing can happen without law and order. And we need to really push that message to our community, because just like these world-class companies are coming here, we've seen Jeff Bezos made Miami-Dade County his home, right? Ken Griffin making Miami-Dade County his home, and bringing their companies and their fortune into our community. And that's because of the safety we offer here. If we lose that, they pick up and go. Now, our community suffers loss of jobs, loss of wages, property values decline.
I know that there's some things that we could not cover, but could you just share with us some of the things that we talked offline that you wanted to make sure that we covered, but I didn't get enough opportunity to write them down? This is the time for you to share with us things that you wanted to say.
So I would say that this is going to be a pivotal point in our community. And it's a wonderful opportunity that we are going to have to elect our first elected sheriff. I offer transparency. My mission is always putting the community first. I've been a police officer, detective, sergeant, lieutenant, executive officer. I've worked at our largest economic engines in Miami-Dade County, our airport. I was the major there, our seaports. I was the major at the seaport, worked at the airport. And I bring a balance, and that's going to be very impactful as we shape the future of the sheriff's office. I've been a major for 4 years in the police department in executive management. I'm currently serving within the agency, and that is important so we can hit the ground running on day one. An active major within the department, serving our community today. I'm a local resident of Miami-Dade County, and I'm a family man. My wife is also a law enforcement officer in our community. And most importantly, my education. I'm a graduate of the Harvard Kennedy School of Government and Public Policy. I'm a graduate from the Naval Postgraduate School's Executive Leadership course. I'm also a graduate with a master's from the Florida International University in Emergency and Disaster Management. And I want to use my tools, my knowledge, my experience, my leadership to lead the agency, our community, and most importantly, be a part of taking our community to the next level. I look forward to the future, and I think the community, whether it's me or another candidate or whoever it is, really needs to do their homework on who they are going to be electing. Worry about that every day, because we need to select the right person. I'm not a politician. I'm a public servant. And with that, Betty, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's humbling. Thank you for reaching out. And I look forward to working with you and the Miami-Dade County community.
No, thank you so much, Jose. This is a breath of fresh air. Like just one thing, what would you like the voters to remember about your campaign? Like, it's something simple that they need to remember when they see Jose Aragu, they remember this.
That I will always put them first. I think putting our community first is the way forward, and having a listening ear and being on the ground is what I offer. And I want to be that person to our Miami-Dade County community.
Now, Jose, and how long are the sheriffs voted in for? So let's say that they vote you in. How long would this term be?
The term of the sheriff is 4 years, as most elected officers are. And then if whoever the sheriff is, right, I'll use myself as an example. If I don't deliver, then they can be voted out, which is wonderful. I believe in that model. I believe in the model that if you're not efficient and you're not productive, then we need to move in a different direction.
No, the reason I'm asking this question, Jose, is because now is the time. Now is the time to decide, because we're about to vote. And if we choose the wrong sheriff, then that means that we have to be with this sheriff for 4 years to just then see if it was worth it. But right now, guys, Jose took the step to come here to answer my questions as a citizen that I know many of you have at home. So he's already starting with transparency. A lot of the sheriffs that run, they only are known in, he talked about public and private partnership. He wants to create transparency through Instagram, where the community know exactly what's happening, when it's happening, a podcast where he can listen to the community's concern, and socioeconomic issues. And he wants you to remember that he will always be putting community first. So you heard it here first. If you don't know who to vote, do your research, and remember that Jose Aragu safer and bring 21st century initiatives and bring safety to us, to our community. Jose Aragu, thank you so much for coming. I am rooting for you. I hope that things that the community see exactly what you really want to bring to us. And now I know you a little bit better, and I feel more comfortable to know that this is the kind of leadership that we have right now in place and that could actually make a change. Thank you so much for coming. I can't wait to see you coming on the show again, so that you can tell us how things are going and how some of these initiatives are shaping Miami-Dade County. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for tuning in. See you next Thursday. And remember, if you're rewatching this is going to be aired next Thursday on YouTube. Right now it's right here on Facebook. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jose. Have a good day, and go on protect us. I know you have a lot of work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Guys.
Real quick, calling all Doral professionals, entrepreneurs, and community influencers. Are you ready to showcase your business, share your knowledge and experience with our engaged audience? Building Connections Doral Talks invites you to become a guest speaker on our podcast. Share your unique perspectives and inspiring stories with our listeners. We believe in the power of your voice in shaping that conversations right here in Doral. Click the link below to submit your information and be part of our next episode. Join us in building connections, sharing knowledge, and growing together. Don't miss this opportunity to be a featured guest on Building Connections Doral Talks. Tune in, connect, share, and grow together with Building Connections Doral Talks, reshaping the way we engage with the diverse voices of Doral, one guest at a time. Doral Talks, your voice, our community. Click the link now on the show notes, the screen, or in the comments below, or just scan the QR code to submit your information as a guest. I hope to see you soon. See you in the next podcast. Bye.